I'm Brita, the Questioning Quilter, and I'm dedicating today's video to my grandson Ezekiel, who helped me create this design, named it, and even sewed a bunch of the half-square triangles. So thank you, Zeke. Now, even though this looks complicated with all of these diamonds and sharp points and triangles, it's surprisingly simple because it starts out as a flying geese block. Now, as always, I'm going to show you a couple of different possible layouts like this, and don't worry, I'm going to walk you through everything step by step. We're going to start by making a 9-inch flying geese block. Now there's lots of ways to make it. You can use whatever you like. I'm using the 4 half-square triangles. So each of these half-square triangles is 4 3/4 inches unfinished. Now, before I show these sewn together, I want to show you really quickly something I figured out. I take half of these orange blocks and I press them to the light. I take the other half and I press them to the dark, so that when we go to sew these together, they nest absolutely perfectly. We're going to do the same for the bottom ones. These are pressed to the light, these are pressed to the dark. Put them together, nest these seams. You're going to sew this, sew the 2 rows together, and we end up with a beautiful flying geese block. And before I cut it up, I've got one more trick I'm going to show you. So here's a close-up of the back of the block. This is the top, this is the bottom. Now, to reduce bulk and make this easier to sew together, we're going to take this vertical seam, just the part that's in the seam allowance, and we're going to pull it out. And this is sometimes called pinwheeling or swirling or spiraling. It's very common. When you pull these threads out, you leave the horizontal ones alone, of course, because that's holding the block together. Now, once the vertical ones are pulled out, you can use your fingers here and open this up. If there's any threads remaining, just take your seam ripper and pull them out. Give this a little finger press so you can see that this part is going to the dark, this part's going to the light. So you'll take this over, you'll press this, and then we'll go to the next step. So here we have our 9-inch flying geese block. And we're going to be making 4 cuts from the center seam, 1.5 inches from this seam. Now, if you're like me, my eyes are getting a little old, it's sometimes hard to see where that center seam is. So I lined that center seam up with this yellow line on the mat, so that when I put the ruler in place, I can see, aha, there it is. There's the 1.5 inch mark. We're going to make 4 cuts all around. And we can turn the mat each time. Now, if you have a rotating mat, now's a good time to use it, but it's not necessary. I never want to make people buy something that they don't want to. Now, this quilt is actually made of 2 versions. I'm going to show you how to make a block and then a mirror image version of this block. And having 2 versions of the block opens up so many more design possibilities. It is so much fun. Now, I introduced mirror image blocks in last month's video, Hugs and Kisses, and now you'll be able to see why I thought that was so fun. So here it is all cut up. I'm going to move this over to the side so there's room to see how we rearrange these. Now, these are all bizarre shaped pieces except for these. These are half square triangles, so we're going to start with them, and we're going to put these half square triangles together. And again, they are opposite directions, so they're going to nest real nice. We are then going to take these 2 orange pieces and put them together. And so they make kind of like this little Christmas tree shape. I'm going to take the center piece and put it down at the bottom left. The dark piece goes in the center bottom here. Now, we have these 2 little triangle pieces, and what we're going to do with them is we're going to line them up so that they make a half of a diamond here. So there's a little triangle, half of a diamond on the right-hand side. And this little mountain piece goes in the bottom here. And when it's all sewn together, it looks like this. So to make the second block, which is just a mirror image of the first, we start with the same Flying Geese block, cut it 1.5 inches all around. And it starts off going together very similar to the others. You put these two half squares together to make a little pyramid. We take these two orange pieces, put them here to look a little bit like a little Christmas tree. Now the center piece with the bar and the pyramid, instead of going to the left, it's going to the right. This goes to the middle. And now here's the fun part. We take these pieces with these little orange corners, and we are going to make them into another little half diamond, but this time it's on the left instead of the right, and the mountain goes underneath. Now, when they're all sewn together, it looks like this. Now, so this is the mirror image, and this is the one that you just made a minute ago. So we're going to put these together, and you see these little half diamonds made a full diamond, like a little sun in the sky over the orange mountains. Once all the blocks are made, you'd think the next thing to do is just sew them together. Well, almost right. The first thing we have to do is figure out how we want to arrange these, because there's so many different choices. Now, the first, maybe the obvious choice, is to lay these out just the way we made the blocks. Here's the regular, here's the mirror image. And if we start putting a few more of these together, we can kind of get a feel for how this quilt's going to look. And as I'm putting these together, I'm thinking, nah, it's not bad, but let's put these all in a row. Now, if we were to make the entire quilt just like this, having them straight in a row, the quilt will look like this. Now, it's pretty good, but I think that we can do even better. So, starting with these same blocks, what else could we do with them? Well, the thing that I thought of is, what if I rotated these a quarter turn so that the sun is up, the mountain is kind of to the side, and then if we put the mirror image block right here, we end up with looks kind of like an orange gemstone and I don't know, maybe a little hut here. Well, let's try the next two. Start seeing if this looks good when they're put together. Oh, well, that's not too bad. Now for the next row, the thing that I would do is I would offset it. So instead of having these little bungalows directly above each other, I think it looks a little better if we offset them. So here we've got these arrows pointing towards each other. So we got the bungalow, the arrows, and then the bungalow. And then the bungalow is up top, and the arrows go here. I think that's beginning to look good. And when they're all sewn together, it's going to look like this. I really like the way this one came out. I like how, if you can see, these kind of diamonds form around the bungalows, giving kind of a really interesting geometric feel to this design. Now, I've got one more layout that I'd like to show you. So just like in the previous layout, we're going to start with these bungalow blocks. We put one block here, we put the mirror image block over here. Now, if we sew these together and we make another one of these, watch what happens. We're going to turn it over upside down. So now we've got some really fun mirror image stuff. We've got mirror image right to left and mirror image top to bottom. Now, that is what I consider a great 4-block motif. I really enjoy it. And if we start sewing those together, we can start putting them together into a quilt. And if we start putting these blocks together, alternating up and down, horizontal, we put 9 of them in to make a quilt, and it'll look like this. I really like this layout a lot. And I have to tell you, I really struggled for whether this image or the other one should have been the main image on the thumbnail. Oh, you can tell me which one you think is better. This was a really close second. And one of the things that I like about this is not only are these turned around, but you get this extra, I don't know, little arrows running in a circle over here. I just think it's really pretty. Now, for other colors, here it is with red, white, and blue if you wanted a patriotic quilt. And here it is with just 2 colors in case you wanted to go monochrome. Now, there's a couple more ways that we can arrange these motifs. If instead of rotating the motifs, we just put the motifs in a straight line. Now, one of the cool things here is, remember that first layout where we had the mountains and the sun? Well, here it is again. If we put them all just straight, each row straight. When we put them all together, it's going to look like this. This is a good design. What I like about this is that all of the columns are the same, all of the rows are the same, and we end up with this really interesting geometric shape with the little diamonds in the middle. Now, I'm going to show you this with 2 colors. And I think I like this design best in the 2 color because that geometric shape that I was showing you with the diamonds in the middle really is accented. The negative space takes on a much stronger feel in this layout. And I don't know, I think it makes it look kind of modern. Now, here it is in red, white, and blue. And the final layout starts off identical to the previous one where we just have these motifs in a straight row. Now, the second row is going to be offset. We're going to take one of these bungalow motifs. We're going to set it on its side. We're going to put it right here. So do you remember when we did the bungalows, we offset them to get a more interesting look? Well, that's just exactly what we're doing here. So we've got a half a block, a whole block, a whole block, and we're going to sew these all together. This is my favorite layout, and I love how offsetting this by half a motif causes this really cool zigzag design with the little diamonds in the middle. That's what kind of gave it the name Southwest Breeze. And before I show you this in the other colors, I want to shout out to Donna Hanson of Fort Worth, Texas. She emailed me and asked if she could make a sample of one of the quilts that I had coming up. And so I sent her the pattern and she sent me this. Isn't it absolutely gorgeous? It's a table runner. So thank you, Donna. Now, here is this if you were to make it with red, white, and blue for a patriotic quilt. And here it is in just 2 colors, a blue and white. And that really highlights that graphical zigzag. I think it looks really nice. Now, for those of you who are my regular viewers and look forward to my video every month, I just want to let you know that I have some stuff coming up in October. Nothing bad, it's all good, but it's going to put me a couple of weeks behind on my next video. So instead of being the end of October, it's going to be more like beginning of November, mid-November. But I didn't want any of you to worry. But I will be back and I look forward to seeing you. Stay well and happy quilting.